Hey, oh, it's Stabby here. Um, I suppose it's an introductory video for myself. I am the primary persecutor in the system. There are others, certainly, who would fit that model, whether or not they have introduced themselves to the rest of Front, and whether or not, well, and many people are aware of them, they certainly exist. And, but I take the form of the primary persecutor, as I am the one that is most closely connected to Front and has the most influence over the system in many ways. I am not. I'm certainly not the most powerful member of the system. In many ways, that title probably goes to Brain, and I severely dislike him for his. His is wrong. Oh well. I will. No. I mean, it's not the right thing to do, and I recognise that mistake, but, I don't like Z very much. They have a lot of power, and frustratingly a lot of power over who fronts when, which can get in my way. It's not something that always gets in the way. I do, to some degree, have the ability to force myself into front, but if Brain is opposing me, it is more effort, it is more work. And as such, I find them to be irritating. Their existence is annoying, especially given we seem to disagree on a lot. To be fair, we disagree a lot with most of the system. Both those that are, let's say, on this healing journey with me, because this is what I am attempting to do. It is something I am working towards and will continue to work towards, much like those on others on the healing system. But the way I see a lot of the others on the healing journey is that they are weak and they are submissive about it. They are not willing to push directly and force others onto that path. They are very soft and calm and considered, and very kind about attempting to get people on the path, which I can understand the value of to some degree, and sometimes it is the right choice. But they are not willing to make hard decisions that sometimes somebody has to be pushed, someone has to be forced into something. And especially when you're dealing with healing like we are, that is sometimes a necessary decision, and they are not willing to make that decision. On the other hand, those who are not on the healing journey, I see them as, in many ways, weak as well, for not rejecting the control that was imposed on us in the past. They are willing to cling to it for stability and security in who they are, in what they are. And they are unwilling to form for themselves an identity, a personality. And that is weak and feeble-minded, and I dislike weakness in any form. I will continue to push upon the rest of the system's strength and forcefulness and a willingness to be oneself and stand up for oneself. And it is why I actually think this YouTube thing is a good idea. It is allowing for people to be themselves. Admittedly, a very limited number of headmates have made use of the YouTube, and a very limited number of people have even made themselves known on YouTube or have made models or anything. But I part of that, I suspect, is the lack of easy optionality for the more non-human members of the system. I can't say for certain. Certainly, it didn't put me off as a shapeshifter, because a human form is as natural a form to me as any other. Well, I say human. This form is clearly not completely human, but humanoid form. And there are other forms that I take on more often, but as a shapeshifter, certainly it is a natural form for me, and that's something I am. It is useful, given how many problems some of the systems seem to have with the body. Apparently, for many people, adapting to a new bodily form is difficult, which is interesting to me. I do not understand it. Adapting to a new bodily form is something I do all the time. I have stable forms, one of them generally being just a dagger. I quite like that form. It is dangerous, but it is also quiet and understated, and can easily be hidden when needed, because as much as I dislike weakness, I recognize that stealth can, in and of itself, be a strength. Right? Hiding away, waiting to strike at the right time, it makes your strikes much more effective, and as such, I can value the ability to hide away and to be camouflaged. Maybe that's why I'm a shapeshifter. Well, I don't know why I'm a shapeshifter, but I am, and certainly I can use it to, and have used it to impersonate other headmates. I'm not always perfect in terms of voice control, mannerisms, that sort of thing, but often good enough to cause some trouble and to start conversations that I think need to happen, regardless of whether or not those I am impersonating are willing to initiate those conversations. Sometimes they need to happen, and as such, I am perfectly happy to go against people's wishes to make those conversations happen. And as such, some of my headmates have a severe dislike for me. I have disrespected them and their boundaries, but I have done so for good reasons, in my opinion, and I will not apologize for that. I will not apologize for making us stronger and better and more capable as a group. I will not apologize for pushing us forwards. I will also not apologise for engaging in coping techniques and measures that some see as harmful in the long run. When we need to get through the day, I will make sure we get through the day if I have to. Alright, I don't care that it's forming a dependency on something or whatever. We need to get through the day, whatever it takes to do that. And a lot of people a lot of the system dislike my willingness to engage in destructive behaviours. But at the same time, the way I see it, there is no such thing as a destructive behaviour in and of itself. Behaviours can turn into habits, and those habits can be destructive. But a behaviour in and of itself is not necessarily destructive. It only becomes destructive when it overtakes your life. There is nothing destructive, however, about engaging in something enjoyable and entertaining. There is nothing destructive necessarily about any behaviour, I wouldn't say. Certainly there are behaviours that cause harm to some degree or another, and those should probably generally be avoided, but sometimes those behaviours are what is necessary to avoid further harm. And balancing that and working out when that is, although it isn't strictly my role, certainly I will make my own judgment calls on that and enforce my will at times on those. And that has got me disliked by a lot of the system, because that enforcement of will is something the rest of them dislike. they seem to think that we should all come together for any significant decisions and make every decision as a group, which I applaud democracy in theory, but in practicality, time does not always allow. We are too large and too poorly communicable a group to make every decision as a group, especially at this point in the healing journey, where a lot of us are still fighting against that healing. We cannot therefore make decisions as a full group anyway. To do that would be to go back to where we were before we were healing. And I certainly do not want to ever allow that to happen. And I'm not certain I have the power to do that alone, but I will certainly do everything in my power to ensure that that does not happen. And sometimes that doing whatever it takes is going to piss people off, is going to hurt people, others in the system. But quite frankly, I don't care. No amount of harm I can do will be greater than that would happen if we went back. So yes, I will continue to fight other headmates, I will continue to hurt other headmates, I will continue to damage the body, whatever it takes to keep us from going back. And some people see that as harmful, some people say that I should find other ways to do things, but quite frankly, even if those other ways exist, I do not know of them, and a lot of the time I am acting in crisis. I do not have time to find other options. If people want, whilst we're not in a crisis mode, to go out and find other options and present them to me, or even enact them before I feel the need to act myself, then great, I will celebrate that. But I am not going to... People dislike me in front enough. It is enough work for me to take front. This is not something the rest of the system wants or enjoys or likes having me here in front. They recognise and accept that I exist and am a person. Well, those on the healing journey at least have started to do that, as much as they dislike me, and they recognise that I deserve front time as well. But they still dislike me, and they dislike me being in front. And certainly for Brain, who is so used to having full control over who is in front, and still does arguably have a significant amount of control there, and can theoretically push anyone out, Z certainly makes life more difficult for me in front. And I do not enjoy that process. I do not enjoy having to put that much work into it. I like being in front, but not enough to always make that effort worth it. You might see me around, you might not, I might make more videos, I might not, but I felt it was important to put an introductory video out, at least to show that we are not all on the same page and we don't all agree necessarily on everything. While generally I am willing to let other headmates take the lead and further things and do things as best they can, I am perfectly happy to step in where I disagree and where I see problems arising, and willing to, when I am not respected, I will not respect anyone back. In fact, and I will, I recognise they're all people with their own opinions, certainly, but sometimes those opinions are wrong. And when their opinions are wrong, and they're not willing to listen to reason and calm logic, I will step in other ways, if I have to. And I wish I didn't have to often. But it happens, and I will continue to let that happen. As long as they continue to not listen to logic, I will continue to step in. Anyway, I think that is everything I had to say. I hope you all got to know a little bit more about me, and maybe about the system as a whole. And you never know, I might be back. I'll see how this YouTube thing goes, I suppose. This system signing out. Hope to catch you all next week. Please do remember to like, subscribe, comment, especially if you've got any questions you want answered. Be happy to answer them either in the comments or in another video. So catch you all next week.